Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay today. Let me check my volume. So I wake up this morning. Well, actually I didn't wake up this morning. I didn't sleep at all last night. I was up all night. Um, but as I checked my mail this morning, I'm on my phone, and I get World Socialist website sent to my box every morning. Not a socialist, but I do use a certain lens sometimes in order to understand reality. And so I find this story is interesting because there's stories that other magazines and news articles don't cover. And what do I see at the top of one of the top stories? A knife. A very large knife. That knife, World Socialist website, and put into the spine of Ocasio-Corez. Now, I'm shocked by this. Oh my God. They're attacking her already. What did she do? She had an interview with Chuck Todd that the person didn't like, and that apparently to this particular gentleman on World Socialist website, she wasn't socialist enough. She wasn't foaming at the mouth enough for the website. All right, fine. She wasn't foaming at the mouth enough for the website. I'm going to show this video because I'm going to show how utterly baseless the argument that WSWS is making on this. I would advise people, look, I don't consider myself anything. And a reason I don't consider myself anything is I hate putting myself in having to fight for a particular lens. I hate that stuff. I may use that particular lens for a particular filter of the world that I need, but I don't necessarily want to ensconce myself into an ism to such a degree where I'm limited in how I see the world. I read the article, and I listened and watched the video that Ocasio-Corez was in. I think the video was fine. I think the video was absolutely fine. I would say the SWP, there's a social workers party in Britain. And you can see the socialists, angry, fired up, foaming at the mouth, railing against the capitalistic structure, alone in a basement with three other socialists. Isolated, left to their own devices. For shit like this. For shit like this. Either the author greatly underestimates or miscalculates the American public, or he just wants her to fail miserably. I don't know which one. Let's take a look at the article. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. He has this view. It's just a weird point of view, that's all. Especially taking into account what the American public is. This woman has just hit the scene. She has just beat Joe Crowley, party boss, Joe Crowley. The guy's been there for like 30 years. There's excitement. People are excited. She's flipping out. She's excited. She's all over the place. She's on media, news, and everything else. She's 28 years old. At my age, I would say she's a kid. But she's going in the office. She hasn't even been in office yet. Like, she's not even elected, and you're hitting her. Jesus Christ. Let's keep going. I think this is baseless, but you can be the judge. Ocasio-Corez on Meet the Press, double talk, evasion, and a disavowal of socialism. Oh, the seedy. In the wake of the upset victory late Tuesday night's Democratic primary election for the 14th Congressional District of New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Corez, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, has fallen all over herself, attempting to reassure the ruling class that she represents no threat to their interests. Is that what she's doing? Ocasio-Corez defeated the fourth-ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives and head of Queens, New York Democratic Party, Joseph Crowley. The 28-year-old former Bernie Sanders campaign operative handily defeated the incumbent Crowley by presenting herself as a working-class advocate and capitalizing on widespread disgust with the Democratic Party establishment. On Sunday, Ocasio-Corez was a featured guest on NBC's Meet the Press program. Her performance made clear why she receives such positive coverage from the media outlets such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and most cable broadcast networks. On the same day Ocasio-Cortez appears on Meet the Press, the New York Times ran no fewer than 4 major articles on her, including a front-page report that lead editorial, an op-ed column by Maureen Dowd, and a long, glowing feature by Michelle Goldberg under the headline, "The Millennial Socialists Are Coming." You're making that sound ominous. You're making that sound ominous. If this was like a scary movie, this would be the music that pulls the thing up your spine. Oh. Something's bad here. Something's bad here. Hey, is it possible that an attractive 27-year-old beat a party boss that's been ensconced in there as a dinosaur for the past 30 years? And is it possible that people look at this and be like, this is an interesting story here. We like her story. Now, you look at that as being something sinister. Is it possible that it's just an interesting story because a socialist just beat a party boss in the Democratic Party? And now they're asking questions like, hey, this socialist just took down one of your guys. Is your party turned to socialism? They asked Nancy Pelosi, is your party turned to socialism? It's a story. There's nothing sinister in it. And let's keep going. It's looking for a fight, that's all. It's looking for a fight. On Sunday, Ocasio-Cortez was featured as a guest on NBC Meet the Press program. Her performance made clear. Right. Meet the Press host Chuck Todd began by hailing Ocasio-Cortez as a giant killer, herald of a changing Democratic Party, and a new spokesman for the party's progressive wing. He then played a tape of House Minority Leader dismissing Ocasio-Cortez's win as insignificant and inviting his guests to make a rejoinder. She demonstratively refused, replying semi-coherently, "Oh, that's wrong." Well, I think that there are a lot of districts in this country, like New York 14, that have changed a lot in the last 20 years and whose reputation has not. And it's not to say whether some people should be voted out or voted in, but I think definitely speaks to perhaps us evolving in our messaging and at least how we do things. At the conclusion of the interview, Todd came back to the question of Pelosi seeking to pin down Ocasio-Cortez as to whether she would support the removal of the right-wing incumbents as the leader of the House Democrats. Ocasio replied, actually, let me just show this. I think I can get away with showing this.
That sound you may have heard on Tuesday night was the sound of a political earthquake in New York City that was really for the progressive wing of the party. Congresswoman-elect yet, you do have a general election, but it is a pretty strongly Democratic seat. So let me first start with something that Nancy Pelosi said about your victory earlier this week. Take a listen.
They made a choice in one district. So let's not get yourself carried away as an expert on demographics and the rest of that, within the caucus or outside the caucus. It is not to be viewed as something that stands for everything else.
Wow. There was a certain bitterness about that. And I don't say that because she was a woman. I say that because she's a Democrat. She hated that. God, she hated that question. Don't take that as a demographic shift or anything. You're not a professor of demographics, whatever the hell Nancy Pelosi just said there. That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. All right, let's keep going. I love the fact that Chuck Todd says, hey, that was an amazing victory, giant killer. Let me start by saying somebody cutting you down a notch. I love that. That's right, Chuck. You cut her down a notch. Get her now uppity about beating Joe Crowley.
She was a bit defensive. A lot of people coming at her saying your victory means a lot more than just a primary win in the Bronx. How did you react to that?
Well, I think that there are a lot of districts in this country that are like New York 14, with that have changed a lot in the last 20 years and whose representation has not. And it's not to say whether someone should be voted out or voted in, but I think it definitely speaks to perhaps us evolving in our messaging and at least how we do things. So I think that, I do think that there are a lot of districts in America that are like New York 14.
I'm curious.
Now, they said that was evasive. I don't think that was evasive. I think ultimately, Ocasio-Cortez is a 28-year-old who's just started her political career. And in just starting her political career, Chuck Todd is asking her, look, and as somebody who's, for the first time, was on a radio show, it's a weird experience. Like, it's not it's not like you're interacting with somebody in a normal way. You're put on the spot, and you're a bunch of people listening to you. I don't know how many people are listening to phone lines, but there's a bunch of people listening to you. You don't want to fuck up or say anything weird. Now, in her case, they asked her a question about Nancy Pelosi. Hey, Nancy Pelosi just put a knife in you. She's pretty bitter about you winning as a socialist. And again, nothing to do with her being a woman. Everything to do with her being a Democrat, and the socialist just won. How do you feel about that? What do you want to say about that? You want to punch Nancy Pelosi back? And she's like, ugh, I don't want to punch back Nancy Pelosi because Nancy Pelosi may be Speaker of the House when I get into Congress. And so she gives an answer that says, look, if demographics need to change, the House leadership often doesn't. There needs to be something going on with that, so they don't no longer represent. I don't think that's a... World Socialist website is taking a disposition that pretends as if people have no tethers associated with what they're doing. She is now potentially going to be a member of Congress, and she's going to have to work with that woman. And you're asking her right up, hey, Nancy Pelosi went after you. Would you like to go after her back? And World Socialist website is trying to punch her in the nose because she doesn't go after her back more viciously. Let's keep going. Let's go to their second point. I just find that to be a nonsense. Come on. Come on. She doesn't punch Nancy Pelosi in the nose, and so she's double talking. Come again. Come again. Yeah. You can be a socialist without foaming at the mouth. And there's a such thing as understanding your political environment. And even then, she calls herself a democratic socialist. She doesn't call herself an all-out, take the railways and take a business socialist. There's a difference. I would even argue she's probably just a classical Democrat. But whatever. I don't know how far it goes. Let's keep going. And I just want to make a point at the end of this. At the conclusion of the interview, Todd came back to the question of Pelosi seeking to pin down Ocasio as to whether she would support the removal of the right-wing incumbent as leader of the House Democrats. Ocasio replied, once again, I want to see the options on the table first. I'm not all that even an elected member of Congress yet. Secondly, we need to see what's going on. I think that it's just premature for me to commit to any kind of decision on this. I was just elected, Chuck. I just got here, dude. I've been doing this shit for 2 weeks. I was at a bar the other week. You're asking me these difficult questions. Next, Todd asks whether Ocasio would advocate for a different course in opposing Trump's impending nomination of the far-right justice to the Supreme Court than the capitulatory posture adopted by the Democratic congressional leadership. Ocasio-Cortez attempted to evade answering with a round of double talk, but finally, under pressure from Todd, declared. So, let's show it.
Curious if Joe Crowley had found out you were, thinking about running, and he called you up and said, "What am I doing wrong? What would you like to see from me? What would you?"
Hey, how are you doing? And
described how she would like to fight on the Supreme Court.
Well, I think that what's going on is that there, especially with the Supreme Court, we have senators and we have folks trying to figure out the strategy. But in the meantime, the messaging isn't as clear to the communities that we're trying to represent. Are we fighting or not? And I still don't have quite a...
What do you want to say?
For me, I'm a fighter. I'm always one for a fight, especially when we see what the GOP has done. I feel like they're kind of gaslighting the country, where when they want to fight, when they want to bend and break the rules and stretch the Constitution to its limits, they'll do it. But when they're on the other side of the table, it's, whoa, decorum. Let's.
So do you want Democrats to borrow some of those tactics? Do you think because that's the tricky game here, right?
Yeah.
That's not a tricky game. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Do you know why they signed treaties not to put weapons in space? And this gets to the defect and the failures of the Democratic Party. Do you know why they signed treaties not to put weapons in space? If China puts weapons, some kind of rocket or missile in space, Russia has to do it. The United States has to do it. Everybody has to do it. You have to do it because you have to remain some kind of parity with your enemies. When one country gets a nuclear weapon, another country has to get a nuclear weapon because they have to remain a certain level of parity with their enemies. If one country has a nuclear bomb, when the United States was the only country with a nuclear bomb, we were waving it around like a drunk with a gun. Hey, Don't make us use this bomb on you. Yeah. It's one of the reason my point is saying this is from a logic standpoint. If the GOP is willing to say Supreme Court can die on the vine, then the Democratic Party needs to also be willing to say the Supreme Court needs to be willing to die on the vine. Fuck decorum. Civility has nothing to do with it. It's politics. The point is to win. This idea that one party can essentially blow away decorum and the other party just stands by holding his thumb in his ass is insane. Some weak, feckless party like that, you need to be dragged out the posture and put a bullet in it. It's no good. It's worthless. What she's saying is not necessarily wrong, this idea of wanting to fight. The problem is, and she kind of makes that point too, I have no idea what the leadership wants. I have no idea what the leadership wants. She's like, I don't know if they want to fight. I don't know what the signaling is. I have no idea. You have Doug Jones saying he's open for talking to one of the picks. I would imagine, I haven't seen Joe Manchin yet, but I would imagine Joe Manchin would say the same. They stole a Supreme Court seat from you. Outright stole. Using some bullshit Mitch McConnell rule. The fact, the idea, the very glimmer that any Democrat would be willing to essentially bend down for whatever pick Trump puts up is insanity. It should be dead on arrival. If they're going to pass it, they're going to pass it over the dead bodies of each and every one of those Democrats. That's the level that you need to go to. I will slit my wrists on the Constitution before I let you get another Supreme Court pick. I'm being hyperbolic here, but I'm trying to make this point that every stop that's available, that's in the book, needs to be used. It should be a scorched earth policy for that pick. It should have been a scorched earth policy for the last pick. Because right now you have a situation where he's just stolen one pick from you and is going to get a secondary pick. Just saying. What she's saying is not wrong. She's just not aggressive enough.
Which is, do two wrongs make a right?
And I do see the point that you're making, like the consistency point. And I think from my point of view, I kind of look at it more like soccer. What are our positions right now? And this Supreme Court seat is extremely serious. We have a president, there is a federal investigation going on with direct implications to the presidency. And that presidency is talking about nominating a Supreme Court pick that is going to essentially hear this case out. This is in a very unusual time in this country. When is the last time that a president has been in this position?
So what do you want Senate Democrats to do that you didn't hear from Senator Cantwell this
morning? So I would like the Senate to delay. Absolutely. We need to delay until after the midterm elections. That's my personal opinion. And I think that at the very least we need to, if this appointment is going to happen, at the very least we can do is delay the timeline in which women's health care is going to be taken away, delay the timeline in which our civil rights could potentially be further eroded.
They even attack her on this. Now, I don't see anything wrong with their answer, so this is their point. In other words, offering an impotent protest but do nothing serious to block the nomination of a justice who would likely provide the needed vote to overturn the legal right to abortion and rubber stamp authoritarian methods of rule. Most revealing was the exchange that occurred when Todd asked Ocasio-Cortez supposed socialist convictions. I suspect this was the thing that got under their craw. Look, honestly, I don't understand the modus operandi of Democrats. I don't get it. I don't get how they got into be that weak. I don't get how the basics of escalation. And I got to be honest, the Republicans at one point were talking about letting the Supreme Court die on the vine when they thought Hillary Clinton was going to get elected. I would say the Democrats should do the same. If Trump has 2 years left, he's a lame duck president from the time that Congress gets in, and nothing should get through that particular Congress. They should not even hear it. They should not even hear it for the next 2 years. If Trump wins in those 2 years, fuck it, we go another 4. That should be the mindset. This is not the mindset that I myself created. This is the rule set that the Republican Party has created. Decorum means nothing if one party can do whatever they want and the other party just takes it. I don't understand that rule set. That rule set is insane to me. This idea that Democrats will somehow be punished for that is nonsense. Republicans have already taken that knife out. What are you going to do? Stand there with your thumb in your ass? What are you going to do? They're going to potentially take away abortion rights on us. What are you going to do? So, while while my answer is more aggressive than hers, and maybe you can't necessarily give that answer in real light of day, even though that should definitely be the answer that you're talking about behind the scenes, I don't hate her answer. I want to fight. I don't know what the party leadership is going to do. She's trying to be a member of Congress. I don't understand the issue here. She's making conversation as if she's a congressional member who's working under a party structure. Now, nothing in her platform has changed. Meaning she's still anti-war. She's still healthcare, still education, still abolish ICE. None of that has changed. What are you attacking her for? She's not even in the Congress. And let's go to the last thing, which is, I suspect, the main thing. Chuck Todd, what is your definition of democratic socialism? And this is what I suspect they didn't like. How dare you disavow us? How dare you turn us away like Jesus? How dare you disavow us? I think that's the problem with this interview for the Democratic Socialists or the Socialist website. They're not Democratic Socialists, they're just flat out Socialists.
Talk about some of your policy positions, but generally, which is, first explain this to me. You were endorsed by a group, the Democratic Socialists, and you have embraced this label. And I think the New York Times has a headline this morning, the sort of millennials have embraced socialism. What is your definition of democratic socialist?
Well, for me, again, and there's so much focus on this endorsement, but I also think it's important that an important part of my strategy in winning was building a broad-based coalition of people. So while there's a focus on this one aspect of the coalition, and to me, to answer your question, the definition of democratic socialism to me, again, is the fact that in a modern, moral, and wealthy society, no American should be too poor to live. And to me, that means every working-class American in this country should have access to dignified health care, should actually be able to see a doctor without going broke. It means you should be able to send your kids to college and trade school if they so choose. And no person should feel precarious or unstable in their access to housing as our economy develops.
Some Democrats are afraid of the S word. They feel like that's social. It has... Older Americans hear socialism and they tie it to sort of ugly governments from Europe and the past.
Yeah.
How do you sell this to an older generation?
Well, I think as the clip from Schumer showed earlier, Democrats are a big tent party. I'm not trying to impose an ideology on all several hundred members of Congress. But I do think that, once again, it's not about selling an ism or an ideology or a label or a color. This is about selling our values.
Are you a democratic socialist? Is that what you call yourself, or you don't want that label?
I mean, it's part of what I am. It's not all of what I am. And I think that that's a very important distinction. I'm an educator, I'm an organizer, and I believe that what we're really seeing is just a movement for healthcare, housing, and education in the United States.
All right, you defeated a potential future speaker. Should Nancy Pelosi be that next Speaker of the House, or should be a new generation?
Once again, I want to see the options on the table. First of all, I'm not even an elected member of Congress yet. Secondly, we need to see what is going on. I think that it's just premature for me to commit to any kind of decision on this. I was just elected on Tuesday, Chuck.
Fair enough.
Chuck Todd trying to get her to attack Nancy Pelosi. I didn't hate that interview. I don't understand. Look, I think it was that last answer that I think they hate, if I'm being honest. Let's hear their disagreements on this. Following the downplaying of the DSA's endorsement and boilerplate recitation of the Democratic Party rhetoric, Todd pressed us again on the issue of socialism. In response, Ocasio-Cortez cited her as an authority, none other than Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of the Democratic Party, known as from Wall Street. That's actually not what she did. She said it was a big tent party. Yes, she did bring up Chuck Todd's name. I mean, Schumer's name, but big tent party. I don't see... Look, she's a 28-year-old who's just been elected, or at the very least is going to run against a Republican and most likely will be elected. She has been in front of magazines, newspapers, I would imagine all sorts of people for the past X number of days since her election. And I suspect a lot of it has been built around the novelty of her calling herself a DSA, Democratic Socialist. I suspect the socialist part is being highlighted more than the other stuff. I would imagine that if it was me and I was running in a race and people kept hitting that thing socialist over and over again because that's the sweet spot, that's the thing that makes her interesting and edgy, I would imagine she may get to the point of saying, hey, let's put this shit in perspective. It's more than what I am. I don't think she's downplaying it for the sake of downplaying it. I guess my feeling is this seems petty. That's all. It seems like she's not socialist enough for the World Socialist website. That's what it seems like. But she's not just a socialist. And so she's never going to be quote-unquote socialist enough for the World Socialist website. And again, she hasn't rattled or shaken on anything that she talked about getting elected on. It's one thing if she wobbled, she didn't wobble. Let's see. What's the last hit before this finishes? Double talk and evasion are tools of the bourgeois politicians whose career depend on deceiving working people into voting for their class enemies. They are not the methods of socialists. Socialists tell the truth and seek to reveal the real relations of capitalism and the real revolution implications. Okay. Look, this country she's just won her goddamn race. And just winning that race, this country has gone through a weird shock of sorts. Of like, oh my God, she's a socialist. Oh my God, the socialists are coming. Look, there's a socialist. She's a 28-year-old. Now, I don't know how I would react in that situation, if I'm being honest. I would imagine I would just be me, and there would be certain things that I said I was going to run on, and I would try to stay with the things that I said I was going to run on. She doesn't wobble on those things. I don't expect anything other than her to represent those things. Now, if you're expecting her to be an uber socialist foaming at the mouth talking to Chuck Todd, no, she's not going to be that person. She's never going to be that person. And she would never have gotten elected being that person, by the way. There's a certain amount of finesse that you have to deal with, especially in understanding your audience. And what I will wager is, yes, you can push the boundaries, especially when the people feel like other people have let them down. But that boundary can only be pushed so far. She's talking about healthcare, education. She's talking about getting rid of ICE. And people's heads are exploding. Oh my God! Did you hear what she's saying about ICE? She said she was going to get rid of ICE. She's not your type of socialist. Fair enough. But this is a petty reason to put a knife in her. This is a pretty petty reason to put a knife in her. There was no double talk in that. She just didn't necessarily want to punch Nancy Pelosi in the way that you wanted her to punch Nancy Pelosi. And she didn't downplay the Democratic Socialists of America. Okay, she did. But she downplayed it for a very specific political reason. And that probably has more to do with everybody emphasizing it than anything else. You're mistaking it from the person of third person as opposed to looking at it from the person of I. What does it look like from her perspective looking out at the world? Yes, she may consider herself a DSA. But no, of course, it's not going to be all she is. And no, it's not about an ism. It's not about an ideology per se. I don't like this values talk because it sounds too much like Tom Perez. But understand what she means from the standpoint of, I am pushing for jobs, education, healthcare. Those have been the things I've got elected on. Those are the things I'm pushing for. That's what I am. That's what we're trying to push. Once she's elected, if she's elected, we can see whether or not she lives up to the things that she's supposed to live up to. But she's not even elected yet. Calm down. Calm down. Just saying. Wesley Walker took a week's vacation, got a lot to catch up on, Jamal. Glad to be back, though. Welcome back, Wesley Walker. Beltazar 228. Time traveling alien socialists hacked my Washington CIA podium email list, colluding with robot freeloading neo-Nazis to throw the election for Romulans. Eventually, all the clickbait Russia stuff would be hive mind. Shit. Damn. Troy O'Fallon just showing up for Pelosi miffed about Ocasio. Yeah, she was pissed. She was angry. You're not what she's called, a democraticologist or something, she said. Worst Joseph's website is ISO, International Socialist Organization. ISO is mostly on college campuses. The ISO uses the World Socialist website as a platform and holds contempt for the DSA. Most WSWS writers are uptight college students. I see. I mean, because this seems so unprecedented and unnecessary. Why are you hitting her? Why are you hitting her? Are you interested in moving the ball forward or not? And this is not a bullshit move the ball forward like the Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump vote. This is actually somebody who significantly moves the ball in a particular direction for the left. For the left. And it gives shock therapy to America that for the longest time, this idea of socialist was this thing of, ridicule and vile that you could never necessarily even get out the door with, let alone win. Let alone win. And she did. It's just fucked up, put a knife in her, that's all. That's all. Civil disobedience. I came across and watched a live stream from KKK member earlier today. Crazy shit. They're at war with the leftists, I guess. Those people are fucking idiots. Being racist seems to be one of the stupidest things to me. This person has a different skin color. This person has a different eye shape. This person nose is a particular width. It's your avatar in the game. I don't remember. There's no dog that would look at another dog and said, that guy's a golden retriever, so I'm not going to mess with him. It just seems like nonsense. And yet, they're there nonetheless. White rage. The Next System Project has a live stream. I'm out. Peace. Data Lore. Thanks, Data Lore. Have a good one. Kevin Martinez. Also, government in with, the whole hope and change rhetoric. Oh, yeah, got voted in with the whole hope and change rhetoric. Yeah, a lot of people did. All that superficial stuff you're talking about is right tomorrow. The issue being appearance is really just a quick reference to cultural practices we don't want around us. Bob Ramirez, identity politics is a recipe for failure. Yes. The numbers are against it. Yes. There's a high risk of creating more Republicans from people being told they don't matter. Bob, yes. I absolutely agree with you, Bob. She has to work with all those corrupt assholes just to get anything passed. She just can't call it out on TV. Aunt Jessie says, Aunt Jessie, you're right. I agree. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is going to be her boss, potentially. Potentially. Like she said, she has to see what happens. You may mess around and, Nancy Pelosi lose her job. But you never know. Earthy 48 Johnson, the young lady is strong, and that's what I love about her. So what if she had an advantage? She's using her district advantage. Damn, give her some credit instead of being jealous. Earthy, right on. The people that have problems accepting that the profits from the natural resources of a country should benefit all citizens is insane to me. Fred, I agree with you on that too. If you discover oil in West Virginia, imagine the moment for West Virginia being broke. Why is West Virginia broke? It's like the 48th in the country, if I'm not mistaken, poverty-wise. That's insanity. That's insanity. It's coal country. That money, that resource, should have been taken and given to the people of West Virginia in the same way the oil revenue is given to the people of Alaska. All throughout the country, it should have been that way. There should have been no resource that had been sold without the people getting a kickback for it. It is the public lands, right? It is our resources, right? Are you giving that stuff away? Walter, invite her to the show. Debate her on Russiagate, please. That nonsense needs to stop. Who are you talking about, Wesley? Who are you talking about? I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about Ocasio. I've invited Ocasio to the show. I've invited her to the show more than once. I've sent her several tweet messages. She just ignored me. not there enough, I guess. Vegan for the planet. Arya Stark, first, love your name. Yes. Second, they deballed Bernie. Same will happen to Ocasio. We'll see. It depends. If she's by herself, maybe. Which Republican is she running against? I'm not sure, but everybody just kind of assumes that she's going to beat the Republican. Troll Fallon, federal taxes to the federal government do not fund federal spending. Learn, hashtag MMT. Fair enough. I love you, Jamal, but I think you're wrong with Ocasio. Glenn, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Glenn, never get. Glad never get. Now, why do you think I'm wrong on Ocasio? Call in. Call into the show. I'm curious. Let's see. Yeah. If you can call into the show, do so. I want to hear why I'm wrong on Ocasio. We'll just say that's not good. She's wolf in sheep's clothing. But why do you think that? That's what I'm asking. Why do you think that? Oh, okay. Fair enough. Oh, Go Navigator. Fair enough. I was way off. I was way off. Look, I don't know if she's a wolf in sheep clothing. I don't know if you can tell that now, when she's not even elected, and she's only been a week or two, where she even got the nomination. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell that now, man. Look, in a year, you may come back and say, see, I told you so, Jamal. You're absolutely wrong on her. You may be right. But for right now, we don't know. I don't know if she's going to get deballed like Bernie, but she sure as hell is going to be getting deballed like Obama if he actually did get deballed. Obama didn't get deballed. Obama was already that way. Boris Johnson has just resigned. No way! No way! Down goes Boris! Down goes Boris! No way! Down goes Boris! Down goes Boris! Boris Johnson has just resigned. Holy shit. Breaking news. Look at this picture. They got him like Lurch. Oh, man. Look at this picture. I love this picture. It's like he's just creeping out like a creature from the Loch Ness. Resign. Wow. Yeah. That's brutal, man. That's brutal. That's not gonna go well. That's not gonna go well at all. Oh man, her cabinet is an open revolt. You know what happened, right? This is one of those things of who's your, not power base, but who's your what's the word I'm looking for? Socialize yourself around. Like, who do you want to please? Do you want to please the people who you believe are around you and like you, or somebody else? In his case, he had organized himself around the Brexiteers. The Brexiteers have a certain idea about things. And they looked at him, oh, you traitor, you sold us out. How are you going to sell this plan? You just said it was polishing a turd. Now you're out here selling this turd that you polished. Yeah, I don't know how you stayed that long, if I'm being honest. I don't know how you stayed that long. All right, I'm going to end this because I want to do that show. And I need to get that video in because that video is new. So I want to thank everybody for showing up to this one. I will be back in like 5 minutes if it's that long. So if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And of course, you guys can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone. And I'll see you in a few. Bye-bye.